So if you haven't been here for a while, I've taken to moving myself a little down on the floor. I found that I was missing the energy of being able to feel you guys when I'm up on the stage. So here I am, and I'm planning to stay for a while. Yes? So one of my all-time favorite spiritual sayings is, and I'm sure that you all have heard it, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Hear it everywhere. It's attributed as a Zen Buddhist saying. It actually isn't. I did some research on it. It actually isn't, but it doesn't matter. It's a cool saying, no matter who said it, right? And no matter who it's attributed to. Because what we're learning is that when we're ready to learn something, when we're ready to go to another level of awareness, when we're ready to open up to a new experience, then the people and the things and the places that we need to help us move to that new experience show up as our teachers. And sometimes a teacher is wonderful. You know, it's a wonderful friend, a new person. It's a long-awaited experience you've been waiting for. It's a fabulous insight that gives, huge aha that gives you clarity. And sometimes the teacher is something that you would just as soon not experience. Like an obnoxious person, or a condition that's troubling to you, or an awareness that maybe you're not so crazy about. And yet, as we come to understand that the things we draw into our lives are there for us, the universe is a friendly place, it is there for us, then regardless of whether or not we like what's happening in our life, we can see the situation is there for our soul's evolution, for our growth. Does that make sense? It makes sense? So there's this story about you know what? I gotta turn my fan on. Hold on. I'm already working hard. So there's this story about this older guy who's talking to a younger guy. And he goes, I'm going to give you the best advice in the world. He says, there are 4 things that you are looking for in a woman. The first one is that she needs to love to cook, she needs to clean your house, and she has a good paying job. Next, it's that she makes you laugh. And also, you want to find a woman who's dependable and doesn't lie. And you also want to find a woman who's very passionate and loves to snuggle. And it's very important that these 4 women never meet each other. So the teacher who taught that guy that had some experience, right? He'd been through something like that. And isn't that what life is all about? To learn and to grow and to evolve, to experience more. That's why we are here. And of course, we would all love to have only positive, only wonderful, loving experiences. Everybody would love that. But ask yourself this. When has been your greatest growth experience? When everything was going wonderfully and smoothly? Or when the road is a little bumpy, is a little difficult? When have you actually grown your spiritual muscles? So I'm going to give you a fun example. This is a true story. My life is my message. What can I say? For years, I wanted to learn how to ride a 4-wheel ATV, known as a quad. I would see people do it, and I would dream about doing it someday. It looked like so much fun. But for a number of reasons, the opportunity never presented itself. For one thing, at that time I didn't know anybody who had quads. They don't exactly hang out at New Thought Centers. What can I say? On Sundays, they're out quadding, all right? So, and the other thing is, I used to, believe it or not, I used to actually carry a lot more weight than I have now. So I probably wouldn't have been physically able to do it prior to that. But I had the desire, but the student, me, was not yet ready. And then in time, what happened was I got fitter, I got healthier, I got stronger. And lo and behold, I met somebody who had quads. Whoa, what a surprise. In other words, when I, the student, was ready, the teacher, my friend, appeared. Yes? So, now bear in mind, I had never ridden a motorcycle before, ever in my life. So it was a completely new experience for me, but here I am, sitting on my quad, and yes, I don't have a helmet on. Get over it. So we're kind of out in the boonies, right? And my friend gives me a couple of safety tips, and he shows me where the throttle and the brake and the gears are. And he put me in first gear so I wouldn't go very fast. And we started out on our adventure. Now remember when I said that oftentimes our best learning experiences come when the road is bumpy? Well, let me tell you, I know of what I speak. Because this first road, unbeknownst to us, had all kinds of damage because there had been a lot of rain prior to that. So it was rocky and it was bumpy and it was steep and it was full of ruts, and I never worked so hard or concentrated so much in my entire life. And it was more than just a little bit scary, I will tell you that. It wasn't life-threatening scary, even though I didn't have a helmet on. But, you know, I had to really, really pay attention. But after a while, after this road like this, right, we got off that road, thank you God, and got on to a much smoother road. And the funniest thing happened. After that rough road, and the lessons that I learned because I was on the rough road, once we got onto the smoother path, I was completely comfortable, and I was completely confident. And I had an absolute blast. I loved it. I rode that thing until my shoulders and my arms could not take it anymore. So what I learned from that experience, of course, is that sometimes the teacher is the tough and the bumpy and the hard to maneuver circumstances. It's where we grow because we have to, if we want to get out of it. If we want to learn what it is that we are to learn. But here's what happens, is that, so we've been on this bumpy road, and trust me, I know what I'm talking about. We were on this bumpy road, and then life gets smoother, and it gets more easier to maneuver. But because we've been there and we've built those muscles, we're so comfortable, we're so confident and sure of ourselves. Because we've built our faith muscles during the less than ideal circumstances. Here's what Ernest Holmes had to say about it. He said, whenever we become engulfed by negative or undesirable circumstances, one of two things usually happens. We either use or lose our faith. It is easy to trust in our faith when all goes well, but the real test of a person's faith occurs when life becomes difficult and disaster strikes. Anybody relating to this besides me? Yeah. Now, I want to be absolutely clear about something, though. It is not necessary to have to always have difficult or disastrous things happening in order for you to grow. In fact, what happens is that the more conscious you become, the more aware you are, the more connected you are to the source of your being, then the difficulties and the disasters that challenge our lives happen less often. It's like in the beginning it's really bumpy, but then once you learn how to live with this and you've grown your spiritual muscles, it doesn't seem quite so bumpy. Yes? It makes sense? Yeah. So as we become more conscious, more aware, more connected to our divine source, we need to remember to consciously use those less than ideal circumstances to help us grow when they do happen. Here's another thing Holmes said. He said, the law is a law of reflection, for life is a mirror, reflecting to us as conditions the images of our thinking. whatever one thinks, tends to take form and become part of his experience. So again, the negative conditions that we may be experiencing in our lives, maybe it's an illness or a lack or loneliness or confusion or poverty or whatever, they can be our greatest teachers, because they are here to let us know when our thinking is off track, when we are out of alignment with our true selves. Because what we teach here is that God is all there is. In the basics of our teaching, right? God is all there is. God is all there is. And because God is all there is, that means God is within us. We are it. And God is perfection. Then our true nature is perfection. Our essence, our substance, our spirit is pure God. I remember once somebody saying to me, my family came to hear you speak. And they liked you, and they liked your enthusiasm. But they came back and said, oh no, they said they're God. That place, they say they're God. Well, I'm saying that we are God in expression. We are true nature is God, pure and perfect God essence. So, as spiritual beings having a human experience, part of our human experience are the conditions that show us when we're out of alignment. So instead of cursing them, or instead of cursing God for bringing misfortune or misery, we can choose to see those circumstances for what they really are. Our greatest teachers. Our spiritual teaching is called the science of mind. That's because we believe that for every condition that we are experiencing out here, it has a root mental cause. We believe that we live in a world of cause and effect. You've heard that before, cause and effect. So any effect that we have, any condition that we are experiencing out here, started first here, in mind, in thought. And we're not the only ones who believe this. I'm not making this stuff up. In Proverbs, in the Bible, you know it's scary when I quote the Bible, right? As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Yes? In other words, what we think about deep down in our heart of hearts is what we're giving birth to, and subsequently what we experience. In his book, As a Man Thinketh, James Allen, it was his in the preface of that, he wrote this. I can get this just right. Mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind, and evermore he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. Our environment, what our world is, our circumstances, is our looking glass. So the conditions that we are experiencing are reflecting back to us what it is that we are really thinking and believing. But the good news is, there is good news here. The good news is, if it is true that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, then when we have those conditions happening right now, it is because we're ready to deal with them. Did that make sense? I wasn't going to tell you guys this, but I'm going to tell you this now. So anybody who is friends with me on Facebook knows this already, but I received the very unfortunate news about 3 weeks ago, exactly April 30th, that I owed close to $10,000 in taxes. Yeah, because I'd sold a house in California and I was having to pay Canadian capital gains on it. I was not expecting that at all. And I was unhappy. Let's just say that. I was even mean to the receptionist who told me. I know, right? Well, not really, but I was unhappy. Got a second opinion. She affirms, yes, it's true, you owe this tax. So I'm telling my class about it. We have the most amazing science of mind class. 40 hungry, smart students, curious students, and I'm, I owe $10,000. And one of my students says, well, she says, have you ever thought about it this way? She said, the reason why you owe $10,000 in taxes is because you made a lot of money on the sale of your house. If you hadn't made a lot of money, you wouldn't owe the taxes. And I went, right? I mean, if you really think about it. And the reason I'm sharing that story, because I hadn't planned to tell you my story, the reason I share that story with you is I'm still a student too, right? When the student was ready, the teacher, one of my Science of Mind students, appeared and told me what I know, but that I had temporarily forgotten. Yeah. And I was ready to deal with it. I was ready to hear it. That happened 5 years ago. Well, maybe 5 years. If it happened 20 years ago, I would not have had the same joyful outcome because I paid the bill with a smile on my face. So, for those of you who are dealing with unpleasant teachers right now, like the $10,000 tax bill, this may not feel like very good news to you, right? You may be like, but I'm a nice person. I help people across the street. I recycle. How come these things don't happen for me? I mean, why is this happening? And the truth is, you're probably right. You are doing the right things, but are you thinking the right thoughts? In other words, are you doing the right thing, but believing and thinking that you aren't deserving? Are you loving others while believing that you yourself are unlovable? Are you affirming prosperity, but really believing in lack? As harsh as it sounds, if you want to know what you really believe in your heart of hearts, down deep in your consciousness, look at the conditions of your life. They are a direct barometer. Your conditions are your teachers. So instead of cursing that condition, why not strive to learn what it is here to teach you? Why not use it as a classroom instead of a prison? So I invite you right now to just think about a condition that maybe is not to your liking. Maybe you don't have one, yay. But maybe you do. Maybe it's a money issue, or maybe it's a health challenge, or maybe you got a relationship thing going on. Maybe it's just a repeating pattern. Anybody besides me have the same relationship over and over again, just a different face? Yeah. So you got something in mind? Without judging whether it's good or bad, ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? What is it trying to teach me? Where might my thoughts need to shift? Now for some of you, maybe that answer is right there. You got it, aha, yep, got it, move on. Maybe the condition is part of a more deeply rooted pattern. It takes some time to figure that one out, right? It takes some introspection, some real honest assessment. And the truth is, you may never figure it out. You may never get it, and that's okay, because the beauty of how life works is that you can always change your thoughts, and you can choose to create a new cause and effect. You create a new cause, which gives you a new effect, a new pattern, a new way of being. And then those new consciously chosen thoughts will give you the new experience, because because they're superseding the old one. Because higher vibration thoughts are always going to supersede lower vibration thoughts, as long as you stick with the higher vibration thoughts. Yes? Yes. Okay. So, let me tell you one more thing that Ernest Holmes said. I love this. He said, each one of us today is the result of the use he has made of the law, either consciously or unconsciously. As soon as we realize this, we shall see that what we are now, or what we now have and experience, is the result of what we have thought. And the answer to what we shall be is contained in what we are now thinking, for we can change our thinking. What I'm experiencing now is the result of the thoughts that I've had up until this moment. What I am thinking now is giving birth to what I will experience. So this is great news, you guys. This is great news. But as I said, the not so great news is it takes discipline. It takes awareness. It takes paying attention. Ooh, where are my thoughts off? Ooh, teacher, I'm not liking you very much. It's accepting responsibility for our thoughts, which will then change our conditions. But it also takes welcoming those conditions in our lives as teachers and shifting where needs to be shifted and learning what we need to learn for our soul's evolution. So I want to close with a poem by the Sufi poet Rumi. I've actually used this before because it's such a great teaching tool. And I couldn't think of anything else that was going to end the talk more profoundly. This is called The Guest House. And I put it up here for you. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. We are students, and life is our teacher. So are you paying attention? Because when the student is ready, the teacher does indeed appear. I love you, and so it is.